I was asked this question yesterday by a client. Are rates going to start going down in January? Because you hear all the pundits saying, "Oh yeah, they're going down right away," and I don't think they are. Eventually they will, but in the near term, I don't think that they will because the market is saying inflation is still here. We saw with the CPI report. I think it's actually higher than that. But eventually it will go down. But we do actually have to affect change in order for rates to go down and make it more advantageous for businesses to do things.
You're listening to Kerry Lutz's Financial Survival Network, where you get valuable information you just can't find anywhere else. To thrive in today's trying times, you need the Financial Survival Network, now more than ever. Go to financialsurvivalnetwork.com and get your free newsletter and gift. Financial Survival Network, now more than ever.
And welcome. You are listening to and watching the Financial Survival Network. I'm your host, Kerry Lutz. Well, we got the CPI number out today, 2.7%. We can all celebrate because between that and Doge and tariffs and all these good things happening, happy days are here again, or maybe they're not, and lower interest rates, not to boot. Ed Siddell is with us now. Ed, great to have you back on the show. So we should be celebrating in the streets now. Trump won, and he's actually going to address little minor problems like the deficit, like government spending, like all these good things. So why worry?
Yeah, exactly. Well, thanks for having me back. 2.7% CPI, a little bit. I hate the term. Oh, it's hotter. Inflation's a little bit hotter than what we're expecting. Look, inflation is not 2.7%. We all know it's higher than that. Janet Yellen's interview, I mean, she regrets, she said it last night, she regrets the fact that she said inflation is transitory and it's higher than expected. We all know that it's here. And I think it's going to actually get a little bit higher going into next year. I don't think it's going away anytime soon. But these policies going forward, I do believe long term, we will be able to get it under control if we actually follow through on the policies of the new administration. But we'll have to wait and see, and it's not going to be out without some pain.
Yeah, well, no pain, no gain. But when you look at it, if we got rid of the corporate welfare, that's like the last time I heard about it was in 21. It was $350 billion a year. All right. So we get rid of that. We get rid of the improper payment. Elon Musk, the head of Doge, and then Vivek Ramaswamy said that they want to reduce the number of government agencies from something like close to 500 to 99 agencies. And, there are agencies you don't even know about. Like I just did a search on ChatGPT a while ago, and I said, give me 100 agencies I can get rid of, and nobody will ever know the difference. And some of them are minor, relatively minor, but it's a culture of waste, corruption, and inefficiency. One thing that's been advertising is the President Impoundment Authority, which was dramatically scaled back during the Nixon era. Congress passed a law saying if we tell you have to spend money, you have to spend it. You can't impound it unless we agree that you can impound it. And this had cut back on a presidential power that went back to George Washington, or at least Jefferson, maybe Washington. I think that Trump is going to make liberal use of it and tell Congress, sue me. And Congress being controlled by the Republicans, I don't think they're going to sue. So that means the minority party is going to sue the president. It's not going to happen. I think there's limits to impoundment where effectively it will gut a program. But it's going to be really interesting because I've read a number of articles. I talked to Bill Walton, who is on Trump's transition team, and he says they're going to use it. This is going to be bloody hell in Washington. Can you picture if this starts happening?
Yeah, and it's So let's look at it from the market side, the economic side, and then the public perception side. So the market hates uncertainty. So I think we have this infighting, we're going to see a lot of volatility, as they try to, implement some of these new policy changes and eliminate some of these agencies and jobs. And as a result of that, the government, what's been propping up the economy is government spending. And so, that's going to stifle the economy for a short period. I really believe, if you just look at the math, the market's going to go down. We could see correction territory. We may even see bear territory for a little while. But like you said earlier, no pain, no gain, right? In order for this to take hold, we have to realize some short-term pain in order to justify and enjoy the long-term gain down the road. So not only are we going to see an impact on the markets, but also the economy. Now, the public perception is they really want this, but are they willing to accept that short-term pain? Let's face it, we are a nation of consumption. We consume. We don't really produce a whole lot of anything. We just consume. So really, we're trying to change these habits. And probably one of the biggest habit is government waste. I heard on a report, I can't remember what channel it was, but it was saying 1% of government workers, of all employees, work 9 to 5 Monday through Friday. 1%. So that actually show up, right? So what is that going to look like? What is the lowest hanging fruit? How are they going to resolve some of these spending issues? And like you were talking about this use it or lose it mentality, it's November, it's October, we're in the third quarter. We have hundreds of millions, billions of dollars left in our budget. Let's just spend it. We've got to spend it. Otherwise, we're not going to get that same amount next year. So, how can we change that culture going forward? And I think that's going to be the hardest hurdle to overcome. I don't know how they're going to do it. And I'm excited to see that they're even going to try.
They said, that number, 1%, these buildings are empty all over D.C. One of the biggest benefits of the Obama administration was the expansion of the federal government, which led to this huge expansion in Northern Virginia. And, if you drive through D.C. and then Virginia just south of it, used to be, the traffic lasted like 30 minutes, 15, 20 miles. Now it's 70 miles down there. It's all suburbs of D.C. of all the government workers. And now they don't even go to the office anymore. I always said, Ed, that the way to cut back on government was to tell the workers next time there's a snowstorm, only essential government workers go to work. And everybody who doesn't show up, you fire them because you only want essential people. You don't want any non-essential workers, right? But maybe they'll borrow a chapter from my book on how to cut government waste.
Kerry, based on that, I think you should be part of DOGE because I think that's brilliant. Well, no, I mean, you already tapped yourself as being non-essential. So, why should we continue that salary and benefits and everything else that goes along with it? I mean, think about the number of jobs just during this administration, just in the last year, half of the jobs created were government jobs. And to do what? I mean, that's, it's a form of welfare. It's a form of nepotism is really all it is, right? It's like, oh, wait, I can get you in here. Come on in. And that's really all it is. So, are they going to be able to eliminate agencies in their totality? How are they going to start? What's that going to look like? And, it is going to have a negative impact short term, but I think long term, it's going to be good, but it has to be permanent. It can't all be executive order because then the next administration is going to come in and wash it all away. We already saw that, from this current administration, from the previous administration, Trump's first administration. So it's executive orders are great for that time period, but then they all go away.
Yeah, and so therefore, got to be done by consensus. Maybe that will happen now that all three branches are in control. And beauty is, if you ever read a book by Milton Friedman, he said the first 100 days of an administration are the most important. That's the only time you can get something done, because all the forces that are marshaling against you are in disarray, and that's when you get it through. And Reagan did that to some extent. Trump did it, but not enough. Now you see that the day he walks into the Oval Office, there's going to be a stack of executive orders that he signed without second thought. And all of his nominees, they're going to go through quickly, or he's going to do not a recess appointment, but a vacancy appointment, which is different than a recess appointment. The recess appointment, I think, is good for a year with salary and then another year without salary. A vacancy one is good for 210 days. So you could be the acting director. And, they're going to use every trick in the book here that's been used against the American public. But let's go back to, you get rid of half the government workers, 1 million of them. You just dump them. And then another 500,000 or 1 million contractors. There's way more contractors than there are employees. They can't just fire these people with 30 days notice. That's not how the government works. They're going to give them a severance package. So the actual benefit probably isn't going to kick in for 2 years,
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And I do like that idea. And I can't remember if it was Musk or maybe it was R. Laffer. I can't remember who had the idea of saying, we've got to incentivize, their ability and desire to get a new job. So, if in that 2-year period, if you get a new job, you still continue to get that severance on top of the new job, instead of waiting until the end and then all of a sudden, well, you know what, I don't have a job. Now I'm going to still be on the government dole. It's just going to be unemployment. So there has to be a way to incentivize people to say, you know what, let's find another career. Because we still have people from COVID that are, underemployed because they choose to be, or unemployed because they choose to be. They just don't want to go back to work. So, that again, that goes back to the culture issue. How can we get people to say, you know what, I actually do want to do the American dream. I want to work and, better my life and my family's life.
So if they actually make all these cuts, that should have a beneficial effect on interest rates, right?
Yes, absolutely. And, I was asked this question yesterday by a client. Are rates going to start going down in January? Because you hear all the pundits saying, "Oh yeah, they're going down right away," and I don't think they are. Eventually they will, but in the near term, I don't think that they will, because the market is saying inflation is still here. We saw with the CPI report. I think it's actually higher than that. But eventually it will go down. But we do actually have to affect change in order for rates to go down and make it more advantageous for businesses to do things. We have to be able to loosen up the lending so that banks will lend and businesses, small businesses especially, can grow. But we're seeing still a euphoric sense of positivity. Even past, the first 10 to 15 days since the election. We're seeing it in the Russell 2000. We're still seeing it in the markets. We saw the CPI be hotter, quote unquote, hotter than expected, but the markets really don't care. I mean, they're looking at it longer term, and I hope it just continues going forward.
That's really a good question, is how long can this Trumporia continue for?
Yeah. And like you said, it's that first 100 days that is so important. And I agree completely. Larry Kudlow said this, and I think I heard R. Laffer talk about it too. And I agree completely, is that my fear is the scuttlebutt, if you will, is that they're going to push that the continuation of the current tax code to the second half of the year. And I think that that's a mistake. To your point exactly, we've got to get it done, in that first 100 days while we can and make it permanent, especially if we're talking about lowering corporate tax rates and lowering the, long-term capital gains. Those are the things that are so that's going to create the certainty that we need for the markets to continue being happy and continue the upward swing. And it's going to temper, any correction in the market, if not completely for a shorter period of time.
What about the concept that Trump threw out there of actually eliminating the IRS? Doesn't sound like it could possibly happen, but it seems like the situation the country in, everything is on the table now.
For the first time ever, everything is on the table. If we go back to Reagan's comments, this is what the administrative state, the fourth branch, to Vivek's comment, the fourth branch of government, right? The administrative branch is the IRS. What they would like is, a two-line tax return. How much do you make and send it in is the second line. And if we go back to, everyone's so afraid of tariffs. Tariffs, that was the only tax for Americans for the longest time until we needed to raise more money, after World War I and II. And so we imposed the personal income tax. So, now is the time to make the changes where we can really affect change and make it permanent to benefit Americans and have America become, a manufacturing powerhouse. We need to bring that manufacturing back, and we have to make it more tax advantaged.
Yeah, no, I couldn't agree with you more. And hey, getting rid of the IRS, that's change. I could believe that.
Me too. I don't think it's going to happen, but boy, I'll tell you what, I sure would like it. If I didn't have to stroke a check on a quarterly basis, that would be great. And imagine the positive impact that would have on the economy. I mean, more disposable income, and people forget they get it's counterintuitive, right? Folks are so focused on, well, you know what? If we eliminate taxes, we're not going to have revenue. Well, if we're creating more of a tax base through production and manufacturing, and we're growing the economy, that's where the tax is going to come from. That's going to be more than what we can spend once we get rid of the government waste and hopefully actually start spending down the deficit, getting rid of the deficit.
I can't wait I hope I only live to see it. Eventually it has to happen because it just makes total sense. Ed, always appreciate you coming on. When we talk next December 11th, 2025, where's the market going to be at then?
I think we're going to see, I'm going to be conservative here. I know people are being way, way, way over euphoric in the growth, but I think we're going to see, an 8 to 12% growth by the end of next year. I think it's going to be unbelievably volatile in the second going into the third quarter, but I think we're going to come out on top by the end of the year.
Well, we'll see if the January effect is alive and well. In the meantime, make sure you go over to Ed's site, EGSIFinancial.com. The link is in the show notes to this interview on financialsurvivalnetwork.com. And I would just ask you, when you visit the site, please sign up for your free newsletter, like 60,000 plus other FSN members have. And if you got a question or comment for Ed or myself, shoot me an email, kl@kerrylutz.com. Ed, always a pleasure. Thanks for stopping by.
Kerry, I appreciate it.
Thanks for listening to Kerry Lutz's Financial Survival Network, your solution to today's trying times. For the latest, go to financialsurvivalnetwork.com. Financial Survival Network, now more than ever.